Welcome to the Mom Founders Table. Pull up a chair and join me every week as I become your thought partner and help you lead to create change. I'm your host, Kelsey Kenry, entrepreneur, millionaire mom of three, and strategic business coach for established mom entrepreneurs. Every week, you will get tactical guidance to apply to your business, leadership, and life that will help you further your true success while also being invited into a new way of thinking and being that creates true freedom. I'm here to call you out and call you up, so take a seat and let's begin. Welcome back to another episode of the Mom Founders Table. And honestly, preparing the notes for this episode, I was in some deep reflection and gratitude because, client retention and being able to keep clients for a long time is such a privilege and such a gift. And most of my clients are with me for 2+ years. And to be able to know them and their businesses and just the intricacies of their day-to-day life and their likes and their dislikes and just knowing them as people, it feels so beautiful to be able to create and cultivate these types of relationships to where even when the business relationship is over, there is a friendship and a relationship that still exists. And so I'm feeling really grateful to be able to teach on retention today and talk about how you can better retain your clients for longer periods of time. And the reason why this is such an important topic is because I want you to be able to scale smarter. I want you to be able to continue to build and impact people without it being this constant feeling like you're pushing uphill or swimming upstream. And one of the easiest ways to increase your revenue is by keeping the people that you have for longer periods of time. And if you're saying, okay, well, I'm in a project-based industry or I'm in an industry where that's not necessarily possible, I actually want to challenge that way of thinking, because anything is possible in almost every industry. And as somebody who has worked across so many different industries, what I will tell you is that things that you might not think apply to your industry or your specific or current business model actually could be applied. And this is one of the fun things that I love doing with people, is just blowing their minds of okay, I see that you're doing it this way, but what if we add this or change this or introduce this? And they're like, oh, I never thought of that. So kicking off today, talking about retention with just expressing so much gratitude. And if you're a client if you're a current or past client who is listening to this, thank you. Thank you for trusting me with your business, with your personal struggles, with your life, with your livelihood, with the way that you create in this world. Thank you for trusting me. I don't take it lightly. Every person that I've ever worked with truly has left a mark on my heart. And I just am, again, just so grateful every single day that I wake up and I get to do this work, because that's really what it is. It's I get to. This is a gift. This is a privilege to be able to use my experience, my skill set to create this success for women is truly a dream come true. So I'll get off my soapbox now and get into today's episode, where we are talking all about how to increase your client retention. And again, we're talking about this today because I want you to work smarter, not harder. If you have people in your business already, we can increase your sales simply by keeping them for longer. So here's what I see happening a lot. And put a finger down if this is something you're currently experiencing. You feel like you are currently chasing for new leads. You feel like that there's no time to breathe because you're always having to introduce more and more people into your pipeline. You feel like your client churn is really high. You struggle to keep people in your offers or services for a long time. And you feel like you're just constantly really just chasing new sales, which is distracting you or pulling you away from being able to implement or provide the experience that you want. And as business owners, I think that this is something that a lot of people don't talk about often enough, is that there is like two sides almost, it feels like, of the business. You have like your carrying out like what your responsibilities, right? And then you have your like securing new opportunities. And you have to actively do both, right? Because if you see too much focus on simply executing on the responsibilities that you have, fulfilling contracts, working with the clientele that you have, then you feel like this heightened sense of like never knowing when new sales are going to come in. And then on the other side of that, if you're only focused on bringing in new sales, then you're unable to focus on executing and the implementation and the client experience as a whole, which then means your client retention is going to suffer. So first and foremost, we have to learn how to balance both. We have to learn how to do both well, and making sure that there is effort in both areas. What that looks like, what the team looks like, that's going to be dependent on your business model and your industry. But I just want to plant that seed for you of typically when I go into a business, they are off balance with this. They're spending a lot more time in one area or the other. And it's not that the time has to be like complete 50-50. If I'm being honest, I'm somebody who is going to focus more on the client experience side. It is my experience and my belief that if you had to pick one or the other, you would focus on your internal workings and serving your clients really well, because serving your clients well, providing good client experience, obviously you're going to retain, you're going to renew, and then you'll also get referrals from that. And so again, just to reiterate, it's not about a balance of 50-50 of being able to go and get new leads and then fulfilling the responsibilities and contracts you already have. It is about making sure there is efforts, and those efforts are optimized in both areas. So client retention is not just about giving great service. Client retention and how we increase client retention is going to be broken down in a few different ways. And so I want to give you what those ways are that you can actually increase your client retention today. Okay, so first and foremost, please understand that retaining a client and building a lasting relationship where they return time and time again actually is going to start before they buy. And so this is where actually your marketing and your messaging and even your marketing funnel and your process of whatever their first step is to be able to learn more about working with you, this is where we need to be setting really clear expectations of what it is and how it works and what they can expect. Because if we don't, if that is murky, if that is foggy, then they're going to go into the relationship or come into your place of business without that clarity. And if there's not clear expectations on either side and there's not clear communication coming from both sides, that usually is going to be a red flag that they are going to maybe be resentful, that they thought they were getting something that actually is out of the scope. Or it can also be an instance where you become resentful because you're operating out of scope just to try to keep them happy. So please know that retention and the relationship that is at the base of your the relationship with the client is going to start before they actually buy. So, if you have a storefront, it's going to start with like your front desk and how they're greeting. If you are an online business, this is going to come from like their first interactions with you, whether they're sending you a message or an email or booking a discovery call. These first interactions, like, people are mostly impulsive, and generally, especially women, are emotional buyers. And so they will pretty quickly make a decision about like if they like you or if they don't. And it's okay if they don't also. But we want to make sure that people always know what they're signing up for, what they're getting, what it's going to look like. So to increase your retention, I would go back through your marketing funnel and your sales funnel and make sure in your marketing funnel that your messaging is clear. And also in your sales funnel, make sure that your messaging is clear. Making sure that we are delivering welcome packets upon contract signing, making sure that when we're doing discovery calls that we are answering questions, making sure that in our marketing that it's very clearly broken down, like how we're serving people and what expected results can be based upon other client experiences. So your retention is going to start before they buy. Secondly, you want to be consistent and reliable, not just getting results. So part of the customer experience is we're humans. We want to be connected with, we want to be talked to. Like, think about when you call like a customer service line, like that will really determine how you feel about the business as a whole, that one representative, right? And so no matter whether your clients are dealing with, multiple team members and you, whether it's just with team members, we want to make sure that there is consistency in communication, that there is reliability and follow through in you doing or team doing what you say you're going to do. I know it sounds silly, but I think all of us at some point have dropped the ball, right? All of us have, maybe in just a quick moment said, yes, I'll get that to you. And then we didn't, write it down, or we didn't tell the next team member that was in charge of it. And that feels really bad as the receiver of that, as a customer, to be like, okay, they said we were going to do this thing, and then they didn't do the thing. And so retention is going to be not just based on somebody's not going to renew or stay longer simply because you got them the results that they wanted. They're going to do that because of the experience that was between the results as well. So for instance, with my clients, I can provide them tactical strategic planning of like, here's how we're going to get from point A to point B. But if I were to just say, here's the plan, and they implement that plan, the plan works, they get, growth or the change that they wanted. But in between, as they were executing the plan, I didn't hold space for them in the struggles and having the hard conversations and things that came up that might need to be changes. If I wasn't available for them to be able to communicate with, then the customer experience would feel more transactional. And so we are definitely in a state where there are market changes across all industries. Of every industry is pretty saturated at this point. Like, entrepreneurship has really grown, which is incredible, but people have a lot of choices, and making choices is hard. So we want to make their choice easier. And also, we want to make sure that we are, again, being consistent and following through, because even if we have to move a timeline, even if we have to adjust a goal, even if we have to reroute a plan or do something or do something different than what was originally planned, if we're consistently communicating them throughout that process, then there's understanding, and then those expectations are clear. So we want to make sure that it's a consistent and reliable experience for them, that they are clear, that they can depend on us, right? So if somebody is paying for a service, they want to know, like, you're going to be there, your team's going to be there, right? That they have somebody to talk to, that they have somebody to go to, whether they can answer their questions. And so thinking through the way that your model currently is and how could you fill any sort of communication gaps to make the person on the other side feel like there was more of a consistent presence, consistent care, or an opportunity for them to open up more consistency. Another way that we are going to increase our retention by amplifying and elevating our client experience is going to be that we communicate proactively. So we're thinking ahead of the curve. So if we are only showing up when there's a problem, if we do not regularly check in or ask people how they're doing, then it's going to feel more reactive. And so we can be proactive by doing things like opening feedback loops. So feedback loops are going to be something that you should implement with all of your clientele, but also across your team. And a feedback loop can be implemented in a number of ways. Again, this will vary from business model, team size, etc. But a feedback loop is going to be a pulse check of how is your experience so far. So with your team, it's like, what are you missing that you still need? Is there anything you're confused by? How can I be a better leader to you? Asking these questions to where you are opening yourself for feedback. On the client side, same thing, but it's going to apply to the service. How could this service have been better? Was the environment suitable to you? How was your experience with X team member? And making sure that we are getting that consistent feedback. One of the things I repeat to clients over and over again is don't make assumptions, right? Because we are creatives as entrepreneurs, so we get these ideas and maybe we feel like, oh, that area feels a little sticky in our business, so I'm going to go fix it. And it's like, let's make this easier, right? Let's implement a system to where we are consistently asking for feedback, asking people for what they want, what they don't like, what they do like. And then let's build based upon that data rather than just assuming this is going to be great, they're going to love it, spending all this time, money, energy, team on something that your people don't even want, right? So make sure that you are implementing feedback loops and that I get it that it feels scary and it feels very vulnerable to open yourself up for feedback, whether that's from clients or from team members. But here's the thing. I said this to a woman today because she was expressing to me that she is currently in a group coaching program and that coach is not delivering what she said she would deliver. It's really important for us to advocate for ourselves, and it's really important that we give feedback even if we're afraid it might hurt somebody's feelings, because feedback, when it's especially when it's said in a way that is coming from a place of the intention is to help the person, because that can get a little tricky, and I'm not going to go down the communication path because we all know that I could talk about communication strategies for hours. But remember that opening yourself for feedback is important because that's how we grow, right? And even if that communication feels negative, even if it hurts your feelings a little bit on the front end, that's okay, right? Because number one, we're never going to be able to please everybody. But number two, if we can really look through the lens of our customers and say, you know what? I could be better in that way. And here's a way that I could do that. So we always get to choose how we respond to it. But we want to make sure that we aren't being reactive, that we aren't just showing up when there's a problem, that we aren't just available only when we have to be, but really how can we implement more of an ongoing, proactive, preventative communication solution for our people so that expectations are clear, so that we aren't just firefighting, and so they feel fully supported. So we're going to remember that our retention starts before somebody buys for us, because the experience starts at the first time they make contact with us, whether that's social media, website, discovery call, whatever way. We're going to focus on not just the results that we're getting for people, but how we are communicating and how we are providing them an experience between those results. We are going to make sure that there is ongoing communication and feedback, that we are asking for feedback, so we are not making assumptions. And then we're going to make it easier for people to keep working with us. We're going to make sure that we have a renewal process that is aligned with what we are doing. We are going to make sure that we build out a solid customer journey that gives people options, right? So an example of this is if you come in and you do a VIP day with me. From that VIP day, you can move into private coaching. And from private coaching, you can then go into my alumni program, which is a less of a cadence when it comes to the meetings, right? So there is always a next step. And so every single industry that I've ever worked in, I'm like, we can definitely add on a next step here. And so what I would encourage you to do is knowing your ideal client and sitting down and saying, okay, knowing that this is my ideal client, where are they, like when they first can start with me? Where does that first, and knowing where they are, what is the first thing that they need? And then knowing that, do we have something built out for that first? And then knowing where we get them, then what would be the next step after that? And then what would be the next step after that? So, and this works across all industries, right? Even for my designer clients, right? So if you're an interior designer, interior architect, you are, remodeling, you're renovating, and it seems like this would be primarily project-based, right? But let's think about the people who have the desire to remodel or renovate their homes. Usually there's always another project that they want to work on. So does this mean that you implement a yearly recheck for them of reorganizing spaces or zhuzhing up a room? Again, I'm just throwing an idea out there, but I want to just plant this seed for you of there's always a next step. So make it easy for clients to keep working with you, not just by doing the other steps that we've talked about that really enhance the experience of them being in your business, but also make it an easy yes to where it's just a continuance. It's a logical next step for them. And lastly, I want you to really think about the tone that you're setting for the relationship. I want you to think about how you are owning the value that you bring. And if you are actively communicating and leading from that place. And here's what I mean by that. If you don't feel confident in what you do, if you're struggling with the mindset trash of feeling like you're not enough or feeling like an imposter, it's going to be really hard for you to retain people because you're going to feel like you're always having to prove something. Versus if you know that you're the biggest in that and you can truly feel that in your heart and you're carrying that through, there's an energy of almost assumption, not from ego, but assumption of course people will continue working with me because I know that I'm going to provide them with a great experience, because I know that I have a next step for them, because I know that I'm continuing to evolve and grow, and that gets poured into everything that I do. So for me, it's very easy for people to continue working with me because I'm always growing. I'm investing in myself. There's always new strategies. Markets are changing. There's new ideas. There's bigger expansion. There's, team issues. So there's always something for us to evolve and grow on. But for me to be able to lead those initiatives, for me to be able to develop that strategy, I have to continue to pour into myself. And so I really want you to understand that people want to be led. People want to be taught. People want to feel like they're getting something from what they are choosing to purchase, right? Again, whether that is a one-time service, whether you are a healthcare provider, whether you are a designer, whether you are a marketing agency owner, whatever it is, people want to feel led, they want to feel valued, they want to feel seen, they want to feel heard. And so we want to make sure that there is opportunity for all of that. And you need to make sure that you are sturdy and strong in your belief in self to be able to execute on those things. So, as a recap, I want you to really think about your retention. I want you to look at your current customer lifetime value, and I want you to write down those numbers. And then I want you to spend the next month looking at these 5 different areas to see what you can improve and what needs to be implemented. So, what needs to be improved before somebody makes the sale? What could be more clear in expectations? What about your marketing and sales funnel needs to be altered? How can you give better experience between your appointments or between when you're seeing clients? How could the communication be elevated to be more proactive instead of reactive? How can we implement some sort of check-in process? And how can we, most importantly, open feedback loops from team and clientele so we're not moving from a place of assumption? What next step can we give to people that we don't currently have? And then, of course, how can we develop more self-confidence and belief to own our market so when we show up, we are showing up in that place of full confidence. So if you have ever felt like you are constantly chasing clients, if you have ever felt like, okay, I know that what I'm delivering is good, but something needs to change, there needs to be a next step, something is off here. You're smart, you know this already. If you have ever wondered why you can't keep clients around for longer, if you have had really amazing client results, but you're not feeling that loyalty, it's not just a client problem, right? This is a messaging, marketing, and sales problem, and it's a business design problem. And so this is why addressing each of these areas, both the external marketing, the internal communications, and the client journey, is going to be really important for you to be able to increase sales. And if you want to stop chasing new clients every month, if you want to have a bigger pipeline, if you want that pipeline to also be something that feeds your business long term, and you want to build something that keeps clients coming back time and time again and referring people, we can fix this together. And so I want to invite you today to actually book a discovery call with me. We're going to put that link down in the show notes for you so that we can actually have a conversation about what the current state of your business is, what issues that you're seeing, and then we can talk about potentially changing those things and what it would look like to work together. Again, this is just a one-to-one conversation with me and you to talk about what is the current state of the business, where do we want the business to be, and how we could get there together. I'm so excited to be able to help you continue to expand, continue to grow, and obviously to be able to work smarter, not harder, so that you can expand your profitability, create bigger wealth, and then not have to work so many hours. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening today. I hope that you have so many good points to go and implement in your business. And just remember that listening to this and hearing this and not going and implementing it is going to be a waste of your damn time. So do not just listen without doing. And if you struggle with doing, don't worry. my accountability that is inside my private coaching will light your ass on fire and make sure that you're keeping momentum. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk next week.